Welcome everybody. I'm Erik Barmack. I write the Real AI column for The Ankler. The Ankler is a newsletter, a collection of podcasts. It's real-time journalism that's all getting into the business of entertainment and the transformative forces in Hollywood. We're excited to be presenting this panel today on AI as creator. Joining me today is Michael Lefaso, who's coming as co-CEO of Rideback and Spurry. Michael, welcome. We have Christina, who's joining us as the studio head of Secret Level. Welcome, Christina. And we have, last but not least, we have Bryn, who is the co-founder and co-CEO of Asteria. So we have a really pedigreed panel today that's dealing with this force of how AI is changing the creative process in Hollywood. Let me start just by asking the question, why are you guys doing this? All of you have had experiences in traditional media. You have worked for top agencies, top studios. What inspired you to be part of the leading forces of AI studios?
Should I start?
Go for it.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Erik, thanks for having us. Like many of us, I think that a couple years ago when I started to see what AI was capable of, a couple things were very clear. One is that the technology was transformational. Two is that for people that know the history of the entertainment industry, we know that the technologies are often inevitable, mostly inevitable. And so what was clear was that a couple years ago when I saw DALL-E, in fact, it was, which could generate images from OpenAI, it was clear that this technology was going to change how we make movies and be in every part of the way that we produce things. It would be inevitable. And the other part that was very clear was that these companies that were building the large models didn't have filmmakers around the table. And they were built by people who didn't understand why we make movies, how we make movies, maybe even what movies are. I mean, it was sort of shocking when you go to meet those companies. And so to me, it felt like a really important moment to make sure that if we're building a tool that's going to be inevitable in the way that we make film and TV, we should have filmmakers who are at the table helping design those systems. And that's why I started Asteria.
Hi, thanks for having me. I come from a feature film producing background, a lot of independent film. Actually, interestingly, I have a film that was shot in COVID that's been released. It's called Newborn, and it was all done, what I would say traditionally. David Oyelowo and Nate Parker, we produced it together. And what's interesting about why I bring that up is one, certain types of films are really hard to get to rise to the surface, to actually be seen, that have a very distinct voice like Newborn. And I think where I see generative AI and the tools, it really does allow for stories to be created, crafted, and told because of the chance that, there's no longer, let's say, a friction of, setting up a film to be done in a way that may be done traditionally. So I think the opportunity, especially to see new voices, new stories, the stories that might have been overlooked in the last 15 years, really have a chance to come. And I think that's really exciting as well.
Yeah, and I would just add, thinking about all the different ways that when you're trying to build something or a franchise and extend it, the way that with technology today, you can extend that across all different types of surfaces for those stories, and really meeting audiences wherever they are is really exciting. And I think part of what that enables is the creator class to be able to control more of what they make, own more of what they make, engage directly with their fans around more of what they make, And that opportunity doesn't come around super often, and leaning into technologies that help make that possible, I think, is a really exciting thing. And I know definitely my background coming from, the traditional TV and film producing side of the equation, thinking about all the, the pain points that we would face when we're trying to make something or a film, and the iterative process that goes alongside that. How do we do that in a way that unlocks that best creative approach towards something, in a way that the technology and the taste of the creators and the filmmakers behind it are able to be realized as easily as possible?
Cool.
Over the last year or so, I've had two theses that I've written a lot about, these were broad trends that were happening in AI. So one was just an efficiency trend, that it was just going to get cheaper and cheaper to make film and TV, which would democratize, the creative process. The other was big, text to video engines, would create so much content on social media that would send people into this flywheel of dopamine satisfaction, that basically AI would be programming a large chunk of what people were watching. And it terrified me. And then Sora died, and it seems like there's a retreat from the latter thesis, that AI is not going to destroy film and television. Where I guess what I'm asking is, where are you guys on the future of AI content creation, and was some of the doom and gloom wrong?
Yeah, I would say that the three of us, I think, sit from a very similar background, which is like we come from film and TV, and it's what we love. We don't have a plan B, and it's we know how hard it is to make stuff, which is that like it is impossible to make stuff. And so anytime we see anything where it's like, oh, this technology could help us make it, we're going to lean in. All of us are that same thing. I think when you look at the big tech companies again who are building these models, we go back to Sora. One thing for me that was really obvious was that they kept saying they're gonna come to Hollywood and they can, generate images and videos, and then Hollywood is cooked. Like everybody says Hollywood is cooked, which I think when you read that on Twitter, that's like a bot saying that from some marketing campaign. It's not cooked. But those companies, it was really for me when they were saying, yeah, we're going to go to Hollywood. I was like, man, you guys are in trouble. Like it's not going to be a welcome thing when you walk in the room, because you don't have any sense of what we need, and you don't have any context of what, as an industry, we've gone through with the strikes and even the wildfires and what's happened to our industry. And what was obvious to me, I'm sure to you guys too, was that they're going to realize that making movies is hard. They're going to come against a lot of things, including institutional sort of knowledge. They're going to come across the guilds, and then they're going to pivot. They're going to pivot when they realize that like there's easier ways to make money than trying to win in Hollywood. And I think for me, that was always encouraging, because I was like, well, if you build a company full of filmmakers who don't have a plan B, then you'll win, because you're just persistent enough to say like, well, we're not going anywhere. And we saw it happen in the Sora story, right? We saw Sora 1 came to Hollywood and said, we're going to help you make your movies cheaper by doing enterprise stuff. And everybody was like, taking time and talking with them. Sora 2 came out, and it was like, we don't need Hollywood. We don't need your IP. And then Sora died. And it was embarrassing for the industry, because it was it was good that it died. It was good for us, I think, because you were kind not to say AI slop, but I think it was AI slop through and through. But I think that's just like the indication of what we're seeing, right? It's got, in the end, what will win out is that you'll see the workflows that we're building, that we're using, just sort of enter into the way that we make things in Hollywood. And it's almost a silent revolution. Like we'll wake up one day and realize that AI is in every part of the way that we make movies, and it will just happen. Yeah. That's what I think.
I mean, yeah, I agree with Bryn. I think the other thing about Sora was, it was AI slop. It was just like, why? It was cool. Like, hey, mom, look at this. This is me in a new environment. And that was kind of fun. And it was like a fun party trick. Yeah. But what it was missing was really what comes down to storytelling, right? That's the underlying like foundational thing. It's like, what is the story that is unfolding? How are we unpacking it? And what does that look like? And so, I think anything that sort of just hits on, oh, it's something that's a swipe, then it is a swipe, right?
And I was in that like Sora Alpha program. I don't know if you guys were, but there was like a group of filmmakers who before Sora came out were in a program, and we would all talk, and it was some of the best filmmakers of the world. And the conversation was always the same with like the greatest filmmakers. They were like, okay, this is interesting, but it's useless for the movie that I'm making. This is useless for what I'm trying to do. And that was the impetus to start the company, because I was sitting in these rooms having these conversations with the greatest filmmakers making big film and TV projects. They were all like, okay, I see it, but there's nothing I can do with this format of text to video. And I think that's the thesis of not having people who know how to make things at the table.
Because there wasn't enough control, or what was stopping it?
100%. And then any of us who saw the tools, it was the first thing that everybody started to talk about, which was like, in Hollywood, you need, Christina Lee knows this better than anybody. Like, you need to control and you need consistency. And then we would talk to the AI companies who were building them, and we'd say, this doesn't really have the control and the consistency. And they would say, yeah, it does. And, look, and this thing looks like Bugs Bunny. And then you would go and you'd be like, well, but it's not Bugs Bunny. Like, you have to control. I don't think they even understood what control was. Right, that what control was when it comes to a company like ILM.
No, it's so true. And with Spurry, we've seen the same. I love what you mentioned, which is, what's the problem that's actually trying to be solved? And when we think back to multiple times where innovation, and there's a lot of feeling of doom and gloom, but it shouldn't be, right? If we think about, and Christina, as you mentioned, what's the creative side that's going to sort of glue these things together? But look back on history, right? Lucasfilm, ILM, Star Wars, why did that come to be? It was incredible innovation, happened outside of the traditional Hollywood ecosystem because they were trying to solve a problem, right? George Lucas said, I can't create the effects that I want to make for Star Wars. We need to come up with an innovative way to do that. Fast forward, Jurassic Park, right? It's the same thing, trying to innovate, push things forward. But yeah, there's a Steven Spielberg who could glue that together.
And I'll take it one step further too, which is, I think that it's like that combination of technology and creative coming together has always been kind of the key to all those things. And if you before the creatives enter into it, then it's just technologists who are trying to do it, right? You think about the Pixar story, which is like the work that they were doing, figuring out that computers could do animation before RenderMan. And RenderMan is arguably the first interface between an artist and a computer. And then you look at the work that Pixar was doing after RenderMan, when real artists were working on it, and it's night and day. And I think that part is what was so clearly missing from this, is it continued to be this story narrative of Hollywood's cook that was driven by engineers in Silicon Valley. And it was that story has never, we spend a lot of time talking about like that AI film actress Tilly Norwood or something that people would talk about. And for those of us that are working in the industry, we're like, no, that's not even nobody's thinking about that. Nobody cares about that. Nobody's asking for those type of synthetic actors really at the studios. But somehow, if you're just having the technology try to like drive the story, it's not going to be successful. You need artists who are in there driving it.
I like Tilly, but I think I have a bias towards her. Hey, Michael, I want to come back to you for 1 second. So you have your foot in both traditional Hollywood, in a sense, and this new world. So what's it like navigating Ryback versus Spurry? And is that by design to set up these companies side by side?
Yeah, I think it really is to that thesis point of how do we connect, be a bridge between great creators, filmmakers, rights holders, and help bridge towards technology that allows them to create and extend the franchises that they're a part of. When we think about the opportunity, Spurry, in many ways, the idea for it came when Hollywood was in the midst of strikes, right? The actors and the writers and directors, when basically work had shut down in 2023, that's a scary time for a production company. All of your business shuts down, and you sort of realize at that moment that you don't control your own destiny. And when we were thinking about what Spurry would become, we said, well, what if we could find ways that you're not just a work for hire in the industry, you could help creators own more of what they make, and you could have them really drive the process themselves. So I think, again, being in a place where not trying to look at the doom and gloom side of things, but how do we put this, directly in the hands, as you both had mentioned, in the hands of creators and artists to create more opportunities. Because the reality is, within the Hollywood ecosystem right now, it's challenged, it's consolidating, and what's the answer to that? And I think it has to come from somewhere.
And Christina, you on the other side, Jason Zada, the founder of your company, I talked to him last year, and I didn't get the sense that he came from a connected Hollywood world, but he just started making these incredible AI films. So what's the origin story behind Secret Level? What compelled you to join Jason?
So Jason actually has been a filmmaker. He's directed his own feature, and he writes as well. Sometimes he's doing some ghostwriting, but most of his work comes out of commercials. And the Secret Level is actually his third company. He sold his other two. And so early on, almost 3 years ago, he saw the tools, and he could see, as a filmmaker, how can I actually take these tools and get in my hands? And the thing about why I think Secret Level is really special is that we are looking at the next, what does that next horizon look like for a production company? What does the next studio look like? It doesn't mean it has to be nothing to Hollywood or completely creator economy. It is, really great storytellers, writers. They're folks that come from Hollywood working with us. And we kind of break it down in on the narrative side, the studio that I oversee. It's 3 areas of our originals. We do co-productions, and a lot of people are coming wanting to work alongside us, pull us into being the production company on that. And then the third is projects, special projects, work for hire. But we don't coin ourselves as oh yeah, we're a vendor, VFX vendor. I'm if you need that, I have plenty of friends that work in VFX that can do that. So there's some vision there. We love the interactivity also that the tool and the work that we can do will allow storytellers to unfold. Just, having a platform where, it's multi-platform and you can have different types of things. A lot of people talk about, it's how cheap can it be? And I think that's the wrong question. It's not linear. It costs this. This is the budget. People really should be looking at it like this. How much other content can we actually create and make in the world?
Can we look at
we have a clip here of the heist, and I'll show it. We'll show the first minute, and then I can dig into a little bit of that. This is a Secret Level original.
Yeah. Christina, should we just act it out?
Act it out.
We're in a car.
I'm in a car.
Driving fast.
Driving really fast. There's water.
Okay.
This is it's sort of like a Lincoln Lawyer meets Miami Vice. I see them in the back. Here we go.
Dragged in. How long have you been out?
A couple days ago. What's going on?
Well, got some things to move.
What kind of things?
I know, right? Wow. It's a beautiful thing, eh?
Okay. You could come. So, couple things.
Christina, what should we be focused on what makes you proud when you look at that?
So that right there, why we do these shorts, we put them out to the world, is it's R&D for us. And that one, that's fully synthetic. we were testing out character consistency, length of time, directability. We're not trying to make a statement about, oh, synthetic actors. That's not it at all. It's just trying to push the technology in a way of what's happening here and where directing can be, where you can actually start to take your stories and build upon that. And so we were also testing out our proprietary production pipeline, liquid engine in that. So there's a lot of things happening in there. And I think, the main thing that I get excited about is, I look at it, I'm like, yes, it's AI. Yes, the character's AI. But it's the worst it was done a month ago. It's the worst it's ever going to be or look. And what are we evolving toward? And given the tools to really great filmmakers, what are they going to create from that?
Very cool. Bryn, back to you for a second. The Asteria, how would you describe it? Is it a brand? Is it a style of filmmaking? Is it a tech company? How do you explain it?
Yeah, I mean, we now really kind of are organized under a research and technology. We call it Asteria Research and Technology. I think that is really important for us. We were talking earlier about the importance of innovation. So I think we think of ourselves as a film and television studio and a technology company. I mean, I think we think about Pixar all the time, which, as famously was sort of like both, or started as a tech company, became a studio. I think it's important that studios kind of are both. You have to be able to know how to make the stuff and also be able to build. I think now with, agentic workflows with Claude Code, it's like the most exciting time. I think it's certainly a bigger advancement and leap forward for filmmaking than what generative video was. And it means that now creative teams who, just like I was saying before, need to be at the table because they know how to apply the technology, which is missing, now can actually build workflows and apps themselves. And so I think being able to straddle both of those things is quite important. And that's where this future is going to go as software certainly becomes customizable and agents become the service in the future.
Yeah. I mean, and just to underscore, that is wild what Bryn is getting at here, and the applications of it really does for the first time feel like a real game changer from the inside. And part of what we see is, think about that. If you're trying to build a franchise or you have an existing IP that you're trying to build on top of, and being able to leverage the data, the artistic vision, the different ingredients that are part of that, and plugging that into an ecosystem where you can create things that live across all the places where audiences might engage, right? Whether that's high-end animation or TV or film or games or interactive experiences, and the ability, I think as Bryn was mentioning, that those experiences can be created at a high quality level with IP specificity and trust with the creators in mind, not only in what they're creating, but the trust that they want to build with their audiences. That's a powerful thing. And it's a paradigm shift from, I think, what we've seen in I guess what you would call the first wave, and how quickly that sort of evolved into what feels now more like a building phase. And that's starting, I think, to feel really exciting for us.
Yeah. And I'll just say, I think that we have a lot of optimism here, which is why we're building and doing this thing, that the future is very exciting for filmmakers, small studios, globally. People are leaning in to be able to do more, whether that's, like you were saying, democratizing who can make an animated film or who can do big VFX films or rise the level of VFX. So for filmmakers, the future, I think, is very exciting. For Hollywood, the future is yet to be written. Are they going to be able to figure it out or not? I would say that another reason that I think that we're optimistic is, as an anecdote, I remember talking to Demis, who started DeepMind 5 years ago, and I was asking him, what's AI going to do to filmmakers like me? And he was like, "No, don't worry about it. You guys are going to be the last to go." And then DALL-E came out, and I saw him right after DALL-E, and I was like, "Dude, I don't know. You said we were going to be the last to go." And then DALL-E came out, and he was like, "Honestly, we're surprised that we didn't expect this to happen, that DALL-E would come out, that it would be, people would write all this stuff about now Hollywood is, artists are cooked, all these things. And it was scary, I think, for a lot of us. But for those that were really working in it, I think we kept this hope because we kept seeing that, like, actually what's important is curation. And, are you, like, you know, Jason is like hell bent on telling your story, and you're going to do it no matter what, no matter how hard it is. You've got a story to tell. And those things become the value. But yet we saw an industry where, like, Meta would pay $100 million to some AI mathematician somewhere. And I kept being like, no. The value is, like, people who can make stuff and people who can do this. And I think that for me, even though I was sort of scared post DALL-E when Claude Code happened, and we realized that actually we don't need the engineers. Like, if you think about who gets their jobs taken first, and we're fighting between an artist and an engineer, like, the artist outlived the engineer in this thing. So for me, it was like, in this moment, I think I've recently been thinking, as we start to build a lot with Claude Code, that maybe Demis was actually right, that, like, artists are one of the last to go, because if you know how to curate, if you are a hustler, if you have a story to tell, if you understand go to market, which I think is more important than ever, then you're actually the most valuable person here. So that's inspiring to me.
And I think also we kind of got on this interesting track with, like, Hollywood. Like, how does Hollywood adopt, you know, how does Hollywood integrate these tools into their workflow pipeline, like large studios? I think that's really a hard question to unpack, and it might be misleading, because I think some of what's happening, especially with the tools and what we're able to do, is a new kind of filmmaking is, like, rising up, in a sense, where you don't have to have it. I wanted it to do it. You know, we've done film this way, a certain way, right? I had a conversation about someone about computer graphics. Like, how is 3D important? I go, it depends on what the output is. Final output. Is it interactive? If it's not, if it's 2D, I don't need 3D. Why would I need 3D? Right? So I think there's also folks that will take the tools that they see, have the vision of the story, and they're going to create fantastic, amazing features, long form. It's going to happen. And I think that's where, you know, our friends over in Hollywood, we want, you know, we want to pull you along, but don't, like, fit it into, you know, where it shouldn't be. I was making that comment earlier. It's like I'm going to do a biblical comment. Don't take your new wine and put it in old wineskins. It just doesn't work.
I think that's because Christina and I have spent 2 years holding the hands of all of our friends in that industry and saying, hey, here's how you're going to be able to solve some of these problems. Not all of the problems, but some of the problems. And the biggest problem is just the cost of production, right? And how we produce things. But at some point, we have to be like, you have to save yourself to that industry, because we're fighting for filmmakers.
Okay, so if you were the head of Warner's, or, so, you know, take your pick, Disney, what would you do with respect to AI? Would you have a
I had this conversation last week. I would keep my slate of, let's say we're just talking film, you know, whatever that slate is. And then I would make sure I would put, even if it was a certain, you know, the cost of one film, and I would allow for small teams, like a serious secret level XYZ, to go and make the films that they know how to make, that are doing it in the way in which that this is happening, because it is almost hybrid. You have to allow that to happen. Why? The integration of AI tools into a normal structure is difficult just on budget alone. Today, traditional budgets, there's no incentive for a department to give money to another department. So where do you start the process if it's not laid out? There's, like, some friends that I have that have done masterfully in, like, getting that together in, like, virtual production and stuff like that. But if you're not incentivized to recreate or slightly disrupt your budget, then where do you start? And that's where you have to allow for smaller groups to like actually do, let's show you how we're going to do it.
Yeah. And I think for me, I would just, if I was in charge of Disney, I would just make sure like tomorrow that AI is optimized in every workflow at ILM and at Disney and Disney Animation. Like I'm more like forget the studios at this point and just go directly to the VFX companies, because as the VFX companies and the animation studios or the production companies adopt these tools, that's how you get it. The studios are like still spending all of this wasted time having debates inside back offices about should they do this and should they do this? And the whole thing has already passed by. And so to me, it's like you have to, and you got to force it.
And I just want to add one thing. Sorry. We're getting spicy here. We talk about AI, on a global level, like China and Russia and whatnot. I would say the same thing pertains to entertainment. And there are countries out in the world that don't care about SAG. They don't care about intellectual property, copyright, chain of title. And they're going to start to flood and train their audiences to watch that. That is highly disruptive, and that's happening already.
So I think that was the thesis behind Disney doing a deal with Sora before Sora went away to control the process by which user-generated IP would be created. Where does IP play into all this? Michael, I'm going to start with you. I know you had an announcement recently about a book series. Are you guys out trying to get IP that you can then turn into AI film and television?
Yeah, it's interesting. And IP, I think, plays a tremendously important role in all of this. And, even to your question about, what should the studios be focused on? One of the issues that we often see is when trying to adopt new technology, it's solely at the individual project level. And then what you tend to find is that each project has its own pipeline, has its own set of data, has a different way of working. And it becomes hard to share those learnings at more of an infrastructure level, which to us is a much more interesting place to play. And how does that relate to the IP side of the equation? Well, it's actually fundamental, because the way that we think about approaching the world is first and foremost, and it's maybe the boring part, but helping people understand the data that they have. And for an IP holder, for example, you mentioned Magic Treehouse, which is a book series that we're helping adapt. How do we create the data layer around that captures what the author and the creator of that series, what their creative vision is? How do we set up that layer so that when she and her creative team are working on something, they have access to that data in a way that helps them create new experiences? And you were both mentioning this. What does that mean? Why is that exciting to us? Because what you find is when your data is structured in such a way, yes, you can create animation out of it, but then you find you can actually also create a lot of net new experiences that weren't even possible before. So with Magic Treehouse, for example, the theme and the heart of that over many decades is one of literacy and creativity. What if you could create an experience where the characters are interactively helping your kid how to read, or new vocabulary, or a learning experience that's really authentic to the IP itself? So that to us becomes really exciting. And whether you're a studio or an individual creator or a prominent IP holder, everybody is in, by and large, a similar game, which is they want to create engagement with audiences, and doing that in a way that you can meet audiences where they are with the trends that they're following, and use one set of data to create multiple different types of experiences. I think that's what gets us really excited.
And I would say that we probably should have started the panel by just like a definition anyway of AI. I think this is what Christina was sort of alluding to, is that like we're moving into this world where it becomes important to even know what AI is. Like when we work at the streamers, we're spending a lot of time talking about like, is this even AI that we're doing? Like, I think that the world where we're moving is just replacing the current render engine with an intelligent render engine. Essentially, that's it. Like the AI is really good about connecting data in brand new ways and bringing that data up. Like that's what AI does. And if you can combine that with like really fast game chips like the NVIDIA ones or AMD, then you have real time or faster than real time rendering. And so when you combine like really fast rendering, which has huge implications in animation of VFX, with an intelligence of understanding your IP, whether it's a book or whether it's a movie, those two things combined become this big unlock in what AI is. But we're using a lot now on these workflows around restoring archive for documentary and for nonfiction. And like, I don't know, is it even AI? This is the debate that's happening. That's a different than the way that Jason might be using it with Heist, where you're generating full scenes like that. And so we're going to get into this world where those definitions become, I think, very important. But we've spent a lot of time, too much time, having debates about this AI question that, while everybody was debating up here, we were working and building and trying to help navigate as best we could all those things. But there's still like deep misunderstandings in the industry about what this is. And oftentimes from the loudest voices, especially in the opposition to it. And we tell people the same thing all the time, which is to filmmakers that it's, and Joanna Popper said this, that it's optional to use AI, but not optional to learn about it. Like we all have to know what is going to help us in our day-to-day lives and what is going to hurt us in our day-to-day lives.
So all of you have mentioned efficiencies, the ability to process VFX. I haven't heard anyone on the panel say that AI is going to write a good script or direct. Is that a threshold, or is that going to come eventually?
Go ahead.
I finally got you guys stumped on this one.
No, I just.
I think it's because of innovation. So you just it's sort of that never say never. But I don't see it personally. But that's where I am at. I'm sure a lot of my tech friends would be like, yes, that's possible. Today, no, not in the least at all.
I think it's we'll debate this later over dinner or something. I think it's coming very, very soon. I think that the
what's coming soon?
Like we're at a point now with agentic workflows where this clip was the heist 3, where we're like, make me the heist 4 and 5, and it would make you the heist 4 and 5, and it would be pretty good. And I think if it's the worst it's ever going to be, then it's going to be pretty awesome in a very short amount of time. And I think it's important that we understand that. There's this idea somehow that I don't know if it can ever write a script, but like, how many terrible movies are made by Hollywood all the time? No offense. I'm sorry. Don't tell anybody I said this, but like, can Hollywood write a good script anymore too? And it's like, the part for me that I think is quite exciting, like we're building a tool right now called Sounding Board, where you can just, you have a little AI pin and you could sit around and have a conversation and a brainstorm with your friends and put together from a 4 hours of brainstorm, the structure, and then it could potentially move into the script of that. Like, that's very exciting for people that actually don't have the skills to be able to write. I'm very interested in how these tools democratize who gets to create. And if you can bring the barriers of entry down for people to get in the door to an industry that historically has locked everybody out, that's very exciting to me, even if that means it's quite controversial to do.
Michael? Yeah, and the way that I often think about that is not, can it write a script, but the lens that is interesting to me is, can it help a writer write a better script? Can it help a storyboard artist make their storyboarding easier or better?
Yeah, and I would add just one thing too. I think that's right. I think that but the question is, can it help somebody write a script, not even a writer, right? Like, I think that's what's exciting, is that for sure it can help a writer write a better book, but could it help somebody who's never written a book, but who really has a book inside them write a book? That I think is where it's going. And there's a lot of gatekeepers who I think are going to be mad about that, but I think it's pretty exciting.
I would add that it's also going to be a little bit more collaborative. It's also where it was like maybe a single person on a film or a couple people. Maybe it's more akin to like a writer's room, and those are some things that we're testing out as well, is what does that look like as a collective, and people with different hats are wearing different have different roles and things. And again, we're building a bit of the runway as we go and it's all about R&D. It's innovation. It's like, how does this work? Because there's all these other components that I could see on the Hollywood side. It's like, what about the guilds? What about, all of those things? But again, we have to keep innovating on one side, playing with the tools, doing that work, and then also figuring out, Hollywood can figure out what else it's going to do.
But it's so important that I think it's us and the people who are building this stuff have to know what are in those outer reaches of it. Like we've spent so much time, and it's thrilling to be like, what if instead of an animated film costing $100 million, you could do it for $10 million and a smaller team? Think of all the other incredible filmmakers who could make an animated film. There's a whole bunch of new investors who would invest in that. And like recently, post Claude Code, I've been like, that's still a barrier of entry of people who can afford a $10 million film. Like what happens when you actually, like we're going into a world where the cost of production is zero. So like, what does that actually mean? And we have to have a perspective on that because otherwise it hits us like a tidal wave.
So, you guys had all mentioned go to market at some point. Bryn, your $10 million film still has to go through the rusty old pipes of legacy media, if I'm not mistaken. Magic Treehouse, Michael, this is a series that sold 100 million, it's millions of copies. My daughter's obsessed with it. It's a great book series. I could imagine it being a show that's on a streamer. I could also imagine it, with production costs going down, it showing up on YouTube or other social media platforms. How do you guys think about go to market, which seems like a very techie term for traditional Hollywood?
I'll just be the quickest about it. I think the distribution is good. Like I like TikTok. I like YouTube. I like theatrical. We on our regular indie film side, when we don't find a distributor, we borrow a page from Taylor Swift and call AMC directly and just go and distribute it to the theaters ourselves. So like, I like distribution. I'm not trying to, I think it's good enough in the way it is to make a real business there.
Yeah, I think the same for us. What this unlocks is, when you mentioned direct distribution, for example, a creator or an author in this case, they can have a real say in that and the creative process by which the thing is getting made. And because they're equity participants in the project itself, as opposed to the traditional model where they're going to be passive participants that license their IP, basically get cut out of the equation. This is a totally different approach to that. And what does that mean? It means that the stewards of that franchise can decide how they want it to be distributed, how they want fans to engage with it, the types of way they want fans to engage with it. And it's very much different than the sort of one-way street that exists today, which is you spend a lot of money up front, you put it out into the world, you hope that it's good and that people resonate with it. Of course, the ambition, right? You obviously still need to make something that's great, undeniably great, but you can use that same data to create multiple experiences. You can have a direct relationship with the fandom that you're creating around it, and you can control sort of the upside to it.
Yeah, and I would say just a little magic ball moment, like somebody in the next year or 2 years is going to make the next Bluey, but they're going to do it with this process. They're going to own it different than what happened with Bluey now. Like Disney's trying to buy Bluey for $4 billion or something. Like that's going to happen to somebody directly who owns it. And like, that's going to happen. Hope it's one of us who makes it with those person. But when that happens, then Hollywood may be cooked. I mean, then they're in trouble.
I think there's going to be more opportunities for distribution options. I think that is definitely in the horizon.
Is the secret level distribution strategy to go into theaters at some point with big movies?
We're going to do across the board, theaters to like something more interactive.
Fusing something. I see what you're doing over here.
Maybe. Speed. There's a speed element here. We could see something by the end of the year.
We are almost out of time. The three of you, closing thoughts on the state of AI and the creative industry. Are you optimistic, pessimistic? Where's your head at?
Oh, I'm so optimistic because I think we show up every day. It's the most exciting moment. You said it, that it doesn't happen very often. I think if you look at history, there's been 3 times where a technology has come around that has been able to generate and create an image like the camera, a computer, and now AI. And in each of those moments previously, our industry changed, and arguably changed for the better and the more exciting. So I think it's the most exciting moment right now. I don't know if I want to be running Disney in this moment. I think that's very hard, but certainly I want to be on this side of it. And I want to be a filmmaker coming out of school right now.
Yeah, I would say that it's a very exciting time to be brave and courageous and curious and lean in. I think there's amazing stories to be told. It is very disruptive, but I think you got to keep the eye on the target on something down the line.
Yeah, it's never been a more exciting time to be a creator, and forget whether it's AI creating, traditional creating. If you think about, generally speaking, when you're a creator, the best thing that you can do is remove the paths to a no for the thing that you're trying to create. Put as many different things in your own hands so that somebody else isn't telling you yes or no on if you can make the thing. And that's kind of where we're trying to keep progressing the equation to, whether that's a big established IP that wants to create something new, whether it's a filmmaker that's creating something the first time. The more that creators can do to control their own destiny, the more exciting things become. And that'll spawn that franchise or whatever that next big hit becomes.
Awesome. I want to encourage everybody to check out theankler.com, where we're covering a lot of these topics. So please check out the website. Bryn, Christina, Michael, thank you so much for the stimulating chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.